what was your take from, I guess we'll start with Hauser. It seems like he was kind of like, I mean, if we do play the Brownie Award later, which we might, I have a feeling his name might come up. So give us your take on his performance tonight. I guess that second half. And I thought it was interesting. Somebody, I think it was you, asked him how difficult it was, or how difficult it has been not knowing your role this year. And I thought his answer was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hauser's been one of the interesting cases for this year because he doesn't fit into this defensive system in the same way that guys like Josh Minot and Ugo and Jordan do, because he's not a natural. I mean, he's obviously a great athlete. He's in the NBA, and he kind of joked at the end of his presser, like, I'm not a great athlete, but he's that's not going to be his edge on the floor, right? And I think last year's system worked better for him because he held his own defensively, but it wasn't a lot of like full court pressure and things like that. He's also not getting the same kinds of looks that he was getting last year for the most part. But a night like tonight, he was one of the pivotal players in the win. And I think at one point in the fourth quarter, I was like, okay, obviously I have to write about Sam Hauser for my post-game story because I feel like he was the story tonight. And so what it kind of comes down to me is that it's going to be a different player every night. We've really realized that it's so different from the last few years of covering this team. And even Sam, who I don't think the system is like made for him, he can still thrive in it. And he made big plays. I asked him about the tip out rebound, something that I think he does a ton of, that doesn't show up in the box score, that he doesn't get a lot of credit for, but it does create kind of extra possessions. And he hit a few threes that I felt were just like the basketball gods rewarding him for his hustle and his effort. So it's interesting because I don't know if you guys played Joe, but I asked Joe, like, how do you know which guy you're going to be going with? Because it really does feel right now like every single night a different guy in that wing position could close out the game. Could be Jordan, it could be Baylor, it could be Sam, it could be Ugo. Ugo has gotten 2 DNPs now, but like it really could be anybody. And I'm sure it's hard for those players, but it's also kind of an advantage because if Jordan doesn't have it tonight, Joe can just turn away from him. And that's not a normal position as an NBA coach where it's like you have your guys and you play those guys. Like this is a very interesting dynamic and it's very unusual.
Bobby, thoughts on
yeah, it is. Yeah, this is gonna be the debate all year, right? Like, is this a strength? Is it a hindrance on this roster? And I, from the start, was skeptical to the notion that it's a strength because, again, you're going into these games, you have a plan, you have to divert from that, and you have to adjust on the fly. Like that was a big reason. Last game, the stretches were inconsistent, and in this game, you're searching throughout the whole middle portion of the game to figure out like what's the lineup going to be tonight. You asked Noah a good question to Joe about like, do you know? And
wow,
he said,
"Thank you so much."
We actually talked about it earlier on the show too.
Huge praise for that question. But I found his answer interesting because he said, "Yes, you know right away." Do they know right away?
I think so. I mean, he said it wasn't.
They knew it was Sam's night tonight.
No, I just think he knew it wasn't Walsh's night.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So yeah, it's not like it's like Sam 2 minutes in, it's like Sam's closing tonight, but I think he has like 4 or 5 guys that feel somewhat interchangeable in the rotation. And to his credit, I don't know if you guys talked about this yet, but Jaylen Brown played 10 first half minutes. And at halftime, Celtics fans were asking me, is he hurt? Is he sick? Can you go check? Like I'm worried, like what happened to Jaylen? And I think he just wasn't playing well. And I was thinking to myself, this is really unusual. He's on pace to play 20 minutes. Obviously, he ends up playing 32. So he played 22 minutes in the – oh, did he only play 29 minutes tonight? Never mind. Well, he played the majority of the second half. Right. And he said I was just playing bad. Like, so Joe pulled me. Like, he said I was playing like shit. Like, that's in his words. And so I don't know that last year Jaylen would have gotten pulled if he wasn't playing well in the first half. 32. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, so to me, like, there's just a level of it's not your night. Like, there's no attachment to anything. And overall, I think it's going to serve them well. Like, how many times have we seen guys just not have it, but the coach kind of has to keep going with them because they're the guy that makes all the money or the guy that is the all-star or whatever. And this is just like unique.
The last 2 years. We've seen it the last 2 years.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I do think the notion of that being a strength is a little overrated or overstated by Joe, but I will give him credit in terms of his ability to make the change quickly on the fly, figure it out by the end of the game, and then more or less close with the right group. And I don't know, was tonight a crunch time victory? I can't even keep track of that. Like it's all about whether it starts in that, 500 range. But the fact that they've lost in a lot of those circumstances, does make me say, all right, they're not putting the exact ideal group out there to close some of these games. So again, I think there's some truth to it. I think they've made the best of it. But I don't think it's something that is throwing off their opponents necessarily, or is a case where these guys are hugely impactful. There's been a couple circumstances where Walsh or Ugo or maybe even Garza down the stretch are giving them like that interchangeable, unpredictable impact. Hauser tonight, certainly, like I'll give them credit on that. But I think it's been a mixed bag. I do think there's been some nights where the rotations have cost them. There's been some nights where the rotations have benefited them. And that's part of figuring it out, right? Like that was never not going to be the case this year, where they, had something set and we're just going to roll with it. It looked like maybe that would have been the case with Minot. But here they are again. We thought even this morning, like we were on Jordan Walsh savior, storyline, and second half.
Sound. You had the sound too. You had the interview.
Like, is that already, like, are we sitting here today saying that might already be over after this Hauser development?
I think that if we want to be like the best analysts we can as it relates to this team right now, we just can't overreact to a young guy having a couple of good games and then bury another young guy because they had a couple of bad games. Like, Josh Minot is not bad now, and he wasn't the greatest player on earth a week and a half ago. And Jordan Walsh was not out of the NBA and going to China a week and a half ago, as a lot of NBA fans on Twitter, Celtics fans on Twitter were saying. And he's not like the savior of the future Celtics, defense now. Like, there's a reason why these guys are young and unproven. It's like they're young and unproven, and it's going to reflect in their play at times.
But they're the ones making those switches. Like, who do you think will start on Friday now after this?
Maybe Sam. I don't know. I mean, right now it's been like literally the most recent guy to have played well gets the start.
That's what I'm saying. It's not us. It's them.
Well, I think you made a good point, Bobby. I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say something similar. Is that? Sorry, Noah. Go on.
No, go.
I was going to say something similar, Bobby. It's like, are we overreacting, or are we just reacting to what Joe's doing? Because I mean, who's to say he's? I mean, and if that's the case, then is Joe overreacting by completely benching Gonzalez? Should Gonzalez get some burn? I
think Ugo's dealing with an ankle thing. Joe would never say, but I think that if you look at when his minutes dropped, that ankle was like, I saw him, that was in Philly. He walked past me in the locker room. That right after that, he was limping, his ankle swollen. So I think that's part of it, but we'll never get that confirmed.
What would be the reason to not just say he's dealing with an ankle injury? Because what are we?
This is just the life that we lead, covering the Celtics. Okay. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not that. I'll try to do.
I agree with you, Noah.
I just my intuition. That's speculation. Not
fine. Okay, then Josh Minot or whoever. Pick Baylor Shireman, for example. I mean, if you feel like these guys, I understand when a guy's not playing well that you kind of maybe go with somebody else, but we've seen these guys completely get dogged in a way. So in that sense, you could argue that Joe Mazzulla is overreacting if fans are overreacting to the player not playing for a game or two. Well, why isn't he playing at all? I understand that they haven't earned the playing time. And so Joe might give them the quick hook and say, I'm going to go with this guy tonight. Sure. And I know that, a week or so ago, John was debating whether or not Simons should be in that category. He doesn't think he should be. I don't think he should be either. I think Simons has done enough in this league that, I don't know if Joe Mazzulla can say, oh, he doesn't have it tonight. He's, we're going to sit him, even though he's deep down. We all know that Simons is capable of giving you 30.
Yeah.
If given the opportunity.
This is the question we have right now. And we had the same exact debate last game, Noah. Yes, these decisions are leading to wins. And I think that's Joe's mindset right now, is how can we win every single game, every single night? And I'll take whatever measure it takes to get to that point. And listen, I don't think anyone's going to complain about that. Like, if they have a great season and this is the way they do it, by switching up the lineups and rotations almost every night, I don't think people will be pissed about that. But does it impact each young player's individual ability to carve out their role, play through some things, and have consistent time? Like, what if Walsh after this game completely, not to say that's going to happen, but what if he does completely fall out of the rotation after this game?
Then I'll have to re-earn it. Like, here's the thing.
Walsh should be used to not playing.
Right.
I mean, we can say, like, it would be nice and tidy if they have their 9-man rotation, and then they have the 4 or 5 guys that are just cooked from day one, and they're out of the rotation. Like, that would be easy to cover. It would be easy for us to predict who's going to play. But is that really better? Like, in the past, the reason there have been 4 or 5 guys that don't play is because those guys are worse than the 9 guys in the rotation. But I don't know that we really have that right now. So it's going to keep cycling through, like kind of like a high school basketball team, where it's like you're not, or some high school basketball teams, but like you're not necessarily buried. It's just depending on the matchup, depending on the night. I mean, we've seen it. Some nights Jordan's looked like a much better player than Josh, and some nights Josh has looked like a much better player.
But does that lend itself to development? That's my question.
I mean, you can either choose to say this is the year of Jordan and Jordan's our future, so we're going to play him every single night and play through his mistakes. But then would that be fair to Baylor? Would that be fair to Josh? Like, there's not an easy answer here. If there were 7 guys on the court at all times, you could invest in all of their development together, but there's not. So I think it's only fair to just put the guy out that's earning those minutes. And maybe right now it's really difficult to be pulled from the starting lineup after 9 games, and Josh is like having to figure that out. But maybe in game 65, he will have the experience of the ebbs and flows of a season. And that's probably going to be a big part of his development as a professional too. So I do think Josh looked a little rattled when he got moved to the bench, but he looked a lot better tonight. And maybe in the long run, that's like the best thing that could have happened to him. Instead of just saying, well, Josh is our starter, we're going to stick with him even if he's not playing with all the energy or kind of the best rebounding or whatever else it might be.
Sherrod, is there somebody who's stood out to you above the pack, when it comes to the Walshes, the Minots, the Hugos, the Baylors of the Celtics here? Is there somebody that you would, if you're Joe and you got to put, game on the line or one game winner take all, who's that 5th starter type situation? Has anybody emerged really?
No, because there's a reason why these guys have been at the end of the bench or not playing. And the reason for that more than anything else, because there's a multitude of reasons, but the biggest reason is consistency. It's the one thing that these players have shown an inability to do. That's why they're in and out of the lineup as if this is musical chairs, the Celtics NBA starting 5 version of that. And you look at when Josh Minot was starting, we loved the things that he was doing. Hauser too, right? But again, they did enough to remind you why they're in that position. Well, but the flip side to that, they do enough to remind you why that's not their day in, day out job. That they're doing it basically because Joe Mazzulla is having almost like a casting call for starter number 5. And Hauser got the first audition. Did some good things, didn't do some good things. Next, Minot did some good things, didn't do some good things. And now Jordan is getting an opportunity. The one difference, though, with Jordan is that Jordan has a skill that, and when I talked about this before, that's different than pretty much everyone else on the team. And that is the ability to make life at least a little uncomfortable for super quick guards. He's the only one. And when you look at the things that Josh Minot does, you can kind of cut and paste, and patch that together from other guys. And when you look at the things that Hauser does as a shot maker, you got Peyton Pritchard, who does a lot of the same things, not as well as Sam, but not that far removed. But when you talk about defending really quick guards, everyone on this team gets toasted, other than Jordan. And again, go ahead, Bob.
I'm glad you say that because we talked to Jordan this morning, and he said something interesting about how he ended up getting more minutes here, potentially saying that he and Jalen were talking on the plane, and Jalen wanted to find someone who could defend with pressure, do those things against guards. And it sounded like we didn't get to follow up with Jalen, and Joe didn't say a ton about it pregame, but it sounded like Jalen actually might have went to Joe and been like, we need Jordan for this stuff here. And he's done a great job with it, right? So I feel like I want to see that dynamic, because it's been a great one, right, over the last week or so here, continue. Obviously, it wasn't the case tonight where that was what they needed, but I would like to see him get another chance on Friday. And just based off this conversation now, I am actually with you. I think Joe's mindset is, look at what Hauser did tonight. He really battled. He's been been a stand-up professional through this benching, and he's had some ups and downs in minutes and shooting and all this, but he came through tonight. And since he did that, I'm going to reward him for it on Friday and start him. That's where I feel like that goes. And again, that's not the wrong decision here necessarily. It might be the right thing for this team at this moment. So no one gets complacent and no one takes for granted that they're starting necessarily. But I just feel like that's such a quick hook on Walsh. One game where he's a little down and all of a sudden he's back on the, not that he can't impact off the bench, but it's a quick hook in my mind.
Yeah, and I think the key is how do you respond to a quick hook if that's what you get? You know, I don't think Josh responded as best as he could. I mean, there could have been other things going on, but like he did struggle a little bit. But Jordan could come in next game and the second he checks in, play the same defense that earned him those 3 starts. And then I think you're right back in it. So like they deal with, you know, NBA players deal with more adversity than getting their minutes pulled. You know, like this is a guy who wants to one day make a big defensive play in a final series, right? Like that's the aspiration here. So in that standpoint, like I think this is a psychological like experience that is challenging and it might be a little deflating at times, but you're kind of like building towards being the kind of player and professional that you want to be. At the same time, I do want to echo what Sherrod said, because being in Philly last week when Jordan was guarding Maxey, I was like, I think this is the first time in my time covering this team and maybe my time just like being around, you know, watching the Celtics, that they've had a guy who can guard a Maxey. Like, I feel like even when they've had like great defensive players, they have not had, and again, one game, I don't want to overreact, but like he does have something that stands out to me right now over the other candidates in the pool that each kind of bring their own thing. So I don't think anybody should be writing off Jordan. And I guess to my earlier point about like us being dramatic in our analysis, I think the key is that even if Josh starts 9 games, we're not hailing him as the next great thing and saying that means that they're going to sign him to a 4-year extension. And if Jordan has 3 great games and his starts, we can't say now like, okay, he was the greatest draft pick of the Brad Stevens era, et cetera. Like the starting doesn't necessarily mean that you're now all set forever and everything's all great and rosy. Like it just means that for right now, that's the guy that Joe trusts the most. And we can accept that and we can write about it and talk about it, but also not extrapolate too much from it, because we've already seen this season, we had a Ugo era, we had a Josh era, we had a Jordan era, right? And it was none of those guys' night tonight.
Well said, but let me ask you this. You asked Hauser, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to quote you on this, but you basically asked him, how difficult has it been not to know what your role is going to be at any given night? And he gave a good answer. He said, you know, but he gave an honest answer, I thought. He said it's hard, but he has to remind himself that, you know, basically it's about the team. It's not about himself. Are you worried at some point, though, maybe not him, but maybe some younger players, maybe some players with a different mindset, that the seesawing of playing time or the unknown of whether or not they're even going to touch the court, is that going to weigh on guys, especially if we get into the season here? And, you know, obviously winning cures everything, but let's just say they win and lose around the same rate as they are now. Is anybody on this panel, not just you, Noah, but is anybody concerned that this could have an adverse effect at some point?
I was thinking today with Simons, I do worry about him a little bit because he's been so set on being the good soldier, Noah, like handling the tough coaching and the way that they've tried to improve his defense and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, he is playing for a contract here, potentially. He does want to regain his standing in the league, I'm sure. So I don't know which way this is going to go. I don't know Anthony Simons well enough to guess which way that's going to go. And obviously, credit to the Celtics again, making a concerted effort to try to involve him and you know, bump up his minutes in that first half. But is this right? He only ended with 11 minutes at the end of this one.
Credit to the Celtics.
No, he played 19 minutes in the first half. That can't be right.
He had 11 points.
Yeah, Bobby. He had 26. So yeah, I thought he
had 11 points in the first half. I don't believe. I think he had 11 in the first half, and he didn't score in the second half. So again,
I was saying first half.
Kind of like
they did a good job trying to get him going and involved in all that. They were swapping his minutes out with Jalen. He was like the benefactor of Jalen missing.
I thought Simons and Pritchard were the only reason this was a game in the first half. You know, those two guys, you know, the guard position carried them.
Yeah.
But to your point, Jimmy and Bobby, about like the psychological thing of like, how is it, well, you know, what if it does mess with your psyche? Like Jalen just got benched. That's a finals MVP. That's the face of the team right now. Yeah, but like he could have sat there pouting at the end of the first half. I don't think I've ever seen Jalen get benched. I don't think I've ever seen Tatum get benched. And Jalen could be sitting there being like, you know what? Like I'm the guy. Like, I'm averaging 28 points a game. I was carrying this offense when nobody else could score. Now I have a couple bad minutes and you're going to pull me. And that wasn't at all his mindset. Like, I saw his body language on the bench. He seemed completely fine with it. And then post game, he just owned up to it. I played terrible, you know? So it starts there. As soon as it cracks, as soon as you see Jalen's going to start being like, why am I getting benched? Now Sam's going to be like, I'm the vet here. Why am I playing 7 minutes against the Clippers while Jordan's playing 33? Like, but right now, everybody's on board to what they're sharing.
Because they're winning, right?
Because they're winning, and I think honestly they're not even really winning that much, but they're bought into what Joe is selling, and that's the key, right? That's the key in this league, is that the star players have to be bought into the coaches. Like, that's pretty much what being an NBA coach is, not to boil it down too much, right. But he has buy-in from everybody right now, which is why it's so important that he doesn't lose Jalen, because you lose Jalen, you know, who knows what happens next. So to me, like right now, if you're Jordan and you're feeling sorry for yourself because you played 11 minutes tonight, like you don't have it. Like you gotta snap yourself out of it, because there's going to be many more of those roller coaster moments this season. I just don't think they need to be babied. Like these are professional players. Jordan maybe was more of a baby when he got into the league, but part of why he was able to get to this position when starting 3 games in a row is because he became a pro, and a pro handles that well. And I haven't seen any sign from anybody that they're not handling this well, acknowledging that it's difficult. And Sam was honest about that. But you know, it'll be interesting. Chris Boucher, how's he doing? I'd love to know actually, because he hasn't played in weeks.
Well, the guys
go ahead, Sherrod.
No, I was just going to say that the guys that I worry about, I was going to say Boucher and Simons, because they're veterans and because they're new to the team, and because we've never really seen how they handle the ups and downs. Whereas Jordan, he's been on the bench pretty much his entire NBA career. So when he gets a chance to play a little bit and he has to go back to the bench, he already has the perspective and wherewithal to know what that's like and know how he has to stay ready and prepared for his opportunity. Because if it came around once, there's a pretty good chance it's going to come around again if it goes away at all, which I don't think it will. I think he'll stay in that lineup on Friday at least. But some of those other guys, you wonder how they're going to handle the ups and downs, because they've never been through that, and with us getting a chance to see them do that. So Simon's more than anyone else I'm most worried about, because I think he's the one guy who is being asked, I think, to make the most dramatic change in their game, the role that they play, and the minutes that they log. And none of those things is, I think, to his benefit. You're playing fewer minutes. Your role will be diminished, and you're going to get a quicker hook. And it's great to see Jalen and how he handles when he doesn't play his usual minutes for deficiencies out there. But that doesn't change the fact that if you're Anthony Simons, I'm a 20-point per game scorer in this league. I get buckets. That's literally why I'm here, because I get buckets. And I'm logging 7 minutes here and 19 minutes there. I'm all over the map. It's got to be difficult for him because he's never done anything like this. Because at least when you were in Portland and you weren't playing as much as you wanted to, there's some dude named Dame Lillard that was playing ahead of you. He's pretty damn good. There's no Dame Lillard at the shooting guard spot on his team. You're not playing behind Jaylen Brown. You're playing with Jalen when you're out there. So, and no disrespect to Peyton Pritchard, who's a damn good player, but Peyton Pritchard is not Dame Lillard by any stretch of the imagination. So, or at least not young yet. Dame. Okay? Not young Dame. Now, today, different story, obviously. But bottom line is this. Simons is the one guy who, if you're trying to figure out who is going to be challenged the most to figure out how to find their place in space with this team, I think it's Simons. And the fact that his minutes fluctuate the way they have, I don't know. I don't feel good that this is going to end well. Put it that way.
Listen, we're going to have this conversation.
I'm with you, Sherrod.
Every single game. Like it's going to get frustrating after a certain point, but I think to some degree we just have to accept that it's the reality and that they're.
Yeah. Why do I have to accept it?
I think because all we're going to do, Jimmy, is sit here and yell about it every single night.
Then guess what, Bobby?
And listen, I'm fine with
There's
it.
that Jimmy.
We're doing it again, but I don't think it's going to change. Do you know it?
I don't think so. But it's a long season, and he's going to have plenty of 20-plus point games in the future. But yeah, I don't think it's going to change.
I think we're going to find out. We'll find out soon enough.
We're just like with the rotation thing. We're debating: is it right? Is it wrong? I think winning is the wrong phrase, Jimmy, because they are still floating around 500. They're not losing yet. So I think that allows the buy-in to continue among young players in particular, right? Like Walsh isn't going to go
That's early in the
veer
season.
off here. And it's early. Everyone's still figuring it out. I give them some grace. Like I'm not, this isn't criticism. They are where they are in terms of the roster, as Alex Cora likes to say, right? Mm-hmm. So this is stuff that they have to do. Like there's no choice. There's a lot of things that they just have to do this year because of where the roster at, because Tatum's out, because they don't know who these guys are yet. And none of them might even be like, I don't know how you feel about this, Noah, but none of these guys might necessarily be a high enough caliber prospect where you have to invest in minutes in them every single night. And like Ugo will be an interesting case as the year goes on. And obviously we talked about whether Maine's warranted for him a little bit early this year. And that'll be a good question as the next couple of weeks here pass. But no one among these young players has separated themselves. And even Simons hasn't done enough to say like, all right, they have to invest in this guy. They have to emphasize these guys' minutes. So I'll be patient, right? I don't fully believe in the fact that shifting the rotation and pulling guys around this much in terms of their roles and changing things this rapidly is the best for any single player or anyone's long-term outlook here. But as long as it keeps them competitive, as long as it continues to win games, and it has, I'll trust it to some degree. I'm skeptical, but Joe's been a good coach through his tenure here. Feels like he's getting a lot out of a lot of different guys, and they're above 500. So I will trust it, but I have some questions about the approach.
Trust the process, he says. Okay. We're going to end it as we typically do on a win with a gimmick if I'm hosting. I'm a huge gimmick guy. Always have been, always will be. One of my favorite gimmicks is the Brownie Award. We talked about Jaylen Brown, so of course we're going to play the Brownie Award game. Amit, hit me with the... All right. Ladies first. Noah, we'll start with you. Who gets your Brownie Award?
This was an easy one for me. I don't know if you guys talked about it before I joined, but Derek White had
we haven't mentioned him all game.
We haven't mentioned it. It was perfect for the Brownie Award. He was huge down the stretch, hit some big shots in the fourth quarter. I thought defensively he was the difference in the second half, and part of why they got off to a bad start was because he picked up 2 early fouls, and then he was benched early on. And when Derek's on the floor, bad things happen. Off the floor, bad things happen. He finishes with a very nice, well-rounded stat line and still has not been his usual efficient self, but he impacted the game in so many ways, especially on the defensive end. And that was really the story of this one. I mean, they held the Nets to 38 points in the second half, and I'm going to give Derek a lot of credit for that. He set the tone on that end, and it also hit some big threes. So shout out to him.
Yeah, he came up huge for them in the fourth. Sherrod?
That
was a good one. But I'm going to go with Sam Hauser. I thought Sam was just absolutely clutch in this game. Yes, Derek White made some big plays, but so did Sam. And Sam, the thing that I liked about Sam is that he once again showed that he's more than just a catch and shoot guy. I thought that, one of the biggest plays he made was a dribble drive into the paint and a kick out to Derek White for a 3-pointer that I think he put him up by 10 at that point. And he had a couple other plays like that, and he shot the ball well. And maybe, one of the, I think, most important stats in this particular game was who was on the floor when the Celtics began to pull away. And more often than not, it was Sam Hauser, who was plus 22 when he was on the floor. So Sam, that's my Brownie guy tonight.
Love it. Bobby?
I'm going to go, it's not a perfect choice, but I do want to give him a little shout out because I don't think we have all show Shireman, who's surviving. And I'm
sorry, who?
I think Shireman. He's surviving.
Do we have
we play these after wins, Bobby. We play Brownie. This is like a player that affected
I don't think
the
we
game.
do. You don't think he affected the game?
He did.
No.
He absolutely did.
He did.
So I saw a couple things.
His Brownie level. There's levels.
So this is an interesting.
Jimmy, that's the thing. Impact the game, Brownie level impact.
Yeah, but
so
you know what? We'll give Bobby his. You get 10 seconds. No, I'm just kidding.
Go ahead, Bobby.
This was an interesting game because they won late, right? They went on the run in the fourth quarter, but there was a lot of stuff that kept them above water in the first half, and he was one of them. I thought solid minutes.
Excuse me.
The defensive numbers are good from him to begin the season. They put the ball in his hands, which I like, and he made some good passes. He, went out and made a shot, I believe, as well. So, Listen, subtle impact. It was +3 in 13 minutes. I just want to give him credit, Jimmy, because this guy's been hanging on by a thread in terms of getting minutes here.
Okay.
And I am a little worried about him. But
this might be one time we can give him credit. Is that what you're saying, Bobby?
Wait, this isn't the pity pie, Bobby. This is the Brownie Award.
No, but it's not pity. He played well.
Pity pie, man.
He didn't necessarily deserve the award.
You think that you giving him this is gonna like maybe earn him a couple extra minutes next game? Is that what
is this the participation trophy?
I just want to point out
against
the Clippers, Baylor played 18 minutes against the Clippers and Sam played 7. So there's something that he's doing that is keeping him on the floor. And honestly, when I watched it in real time, I didn't know what it was, but he's actually playing really good defense. It just doesn't look as good as when Jordan and Ugo do because he doesn't have the length and the athleticism, but the stats back it up, and he's defended really well. And he is a threat to score and play make a little bit more than those guys. Doesn't necessarily translated, but
he's a 12 player.
Yeah, and I found that interesting coming out of that game, though, because we were talking about, all right, why wasn't Simons playing in that second half of that game? And I think a big reason is that Harden's just going to hunt whoever the best or worst defender is on the floor. And they obviously didn't feel comfortable putting him in that position. But they did feel comfortable putting Shireman out there for, as you mentioned, a lot of minutes of that game. So he's just hanging in there, and he's in a difficult spot, right? It's the whole conversation we've had all show here. Guys getting lost, guys not having consistent roles. They've continued to give him just a couple minutes here and there every night. He's making the most of those. The offense, I still have concerns about what his role ultimately is in this offense. But if it's going to be rebounding and defense and hustling that keeps him alive in this rotation, and that gets him at least a few minutes every night, that could build into something. And like we said, who knows how health goes throughout the course of this year? Who knows how, would a week from now or 2 weeks from now, would our minds be blown if Shireman's starting a game? I think that's probable. I think it's within reason that could happen. So the key to that is just hanging in there. And he has. So credit to Baylor.
The first ever Brownie Award for hanging on by a thread given out to Bobby tonight. We're going to wrap it. Before we do, I'm going to give my award. Sherrod, the professor himself, understood the assignment. Sherrod, I'm going to piggyback on your Sam Hauser pick for the Brownie Award tonight. I think this is a guy that, in the spirit of the Brownie Award, showed up exactly when you needed him to most. Huge, clutch moments for them with the steal. I think, was it Mazzulla who said it was the play of the game, Bobby? I think he mentioned it after the game. So I think there was a turning point in the game. And again, it's great to see Hauser kind of getting back into a little bit here. And Noah, you mentioned it was a defensive play that, really actually stood out to him or stood out for him. So Hauser gets my award. I think overall, great picks, everybody. Bobby, you can work on yours for Friday a little bit more, maybe. But we'll see if Hauser gets some.
I like Bobby's pick.
If Shireman gets some extra burn on Friday, we'll give you some credit for that. And speaking of Friday, you guys will be back in Boston. Celtics Nets rematch at the TD Garden. Bobby and Noah will be there. We will have you covered from start to finish. And once again, Celtics above 500 after beating the Nets. 113.99. It's a party in Boston, kid.
That was the Bobby woo, actually. I don't know if you guys recognize it.
Woo! What do you got, Bobby?
Yeah.
Bobby.
I do not have a woo in me tonight. I do not have a woo in me tonight.
We'll wait for Friday.
Sorry,
Bobby was nervous.
This game was not woo-worthy. I did say off the top, Noah, and I was very nervous as this game started that we were about to get a
Bobby, there's a 0% chance the Nets win one of the next 2 games. Manning. Yeah. It's tough when they were down by 10, huh?
He was sitting on his hands. He was.
He couldn't even look at me.
If the Celtics win on Friday,
then
Noah might have to do
nothing. It just means that they won 2 games. It doesn't mean they had 100%.
Beat the worst team twice.
You better pray, Bobby. You better pray. All right, we're out of here, guys. Thanks for everyone for watching. Thanks, Noah and Bobby, for jumping on. Thank you, Sherrod, for starting the show with me. And we will see you guys all on Friday. Deuces.